What up, childrens? Old man back shouting at clouds. Kind of a continuation off the last one, because I think that's a bigger topic, and there was a lot of things that I probably should have touched on there, but I just didn't get a chance to. So today we will. And I have a pencil and I got notes. It's going to be a little bit more organized than my normal rants. But I think it's because it's important, right? So last time I talked to you guys about affording things, and like it really mostly started out with me saying like I want to not use being unable to afford it as an excuse, and really only use that phrase when it's appropriate, and be more honest with my language and say like I'm making choices. I choose not to buy things like that. But that's a pretty fortunate position for me to find myself in, right? Like being able to pick and choose where I spend my money. A lot of people don't have that luxury, and I don't know what your futures are going to be. The world keeps getting more expensive, and wages are definitely not keeping pace with that. And that's a trend that's 30, 40, 50 years old now. So it seems sadly realistic to expect it's going to continue. So this topic may even be more important when you guys are older than it is right now. Again, very sad to say that. Like I would love to think that my generation would be bequeathing you guys a better future, but it just got to look at the data. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So if I can't give you a better future, then at least hopefully I can give you the right tools to be as successful as possible in that future, dystopian though it may be. So, at any rate, how do we begin to address that? So, here are some realities, at least as of the recording of this video. God, I hope the future proves me wrong, but doesn't seem likely right now. So, what's the reality? Well, the reality is everything continues to get more expensive, and it's getting more expensive faster than wages. So, meaning people are earning more, but they're not earning that much more, and things are getting expensive much more quickly than people are earning more money, which means as time goes on, you can afford less and less and less things. Womp womp. Yes and no, though, right? So in the US particularly, we are a very stuff oriented culture. Not every society is, it should be noted. So that's a choice. We don't have to be, but we are very stuff oriented. So we like to buy a lot of things. We like big houses, big cars, lots of stuff. Not necessarily something we have to have, though, but once you get accustomed to a certain lifestyle, it's very difficult to break that. And that's true of everybody, okay? Doesn't matter where you land on the socioeconomic spectrum, doesn't matter too much where you live. If you get used to a certain lifestyle, it's tough to change that. But we're going to have to. Okay, that is the reality. It's not an option anymore. Life has gotten so much more expensive. Houses have doubled in cost over the last certainly 10 years, probably even less than that. Cars have gotten significantly more expensive. College education's gotten significantly more expensive, and wages are nowhere close to keeping up with that. So the reality is a higher and higher percentage of your money is going to be dedicated to things like where you live and how you get to and from places than it ever has been before, which is going to leave you with less disposable income. So it's going to be essential that you learn how to be disciplined with the disposable income that you do have. So, how are you going to do that? Well, you got to do some soul searching. You have to ask yourself what things really, really matter to me. Okay, like what's super important. For some people, it may be family vacations. For some people, it may be, I don't know. For some people, it may be driving a nice car. But you need to do the homework of figuring out what that is, and then decide how much of your disposable income you're willing to dedicate to that, And necessarily, when you do the math on that, you're going to learn there are some things you aren't going to be able to dedicate money to. And I would emphasize caring as little about those things as you possibly can. You know, some people are foodies, and like eating good food and drinking the best drinks means a lot to them. It does a lot for their happiness. Some people don't care that much about that. Okay, so if you don't care that much about that, dedicate as little of your money as you can to those things while still eating healthy. The things you put in your body have a huge impact on your health. So don't forget that. But, you know, if you're not a foodie, okay, great. Maybe you don't need the porterhouse steak. You can cut some costs there. You can still eat healthy. You just might have to not buy the fanciest foods. So you got to do some of that. You've got to figure out what things are the most important to you, dedicate the resources you have to those things first, and then everything else, or a lot of the other things, gonna have to let them slide, okay? And that's ultimately what would change this dynamic. So here's a thing I hear a lot. I hear a lot of people raging and storming, angry, furious at whether you want to call them the rich, the ruling class, whatever terminology you choose to use that. They get very angry at those people for being greedy. And from a certain perspective, that's accurate, right? But the reality is, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't matter where you land on the socioeconomic spectrum. Once you become accustomed to a certain lifestyle, going backwards is extremely difficult, even if you're rich. Okay? Like you and I could sit here and, you know, point a finger at Jeff Bezos and be like, oh, what a bummer if you had to take a pay cut. You wouldn't be able to afford to fuel your private jet anymore. Oh, it must be a bummer to fly first class instead. Okay. Well, but if you're used to flying in a private jet, flying first class is a downgrade. Okay. I've flown private once in my life, maybe twice, and it wasn't a private jet, but just a private plane. And man, is it hard to go back to commercial after that. Ugh. That being said, I have no choice, so I do. And I'm certainly not flying first class, but you know, the reality is it is hard for anybody. And the point being, not that you should feel bad for those people, but the reality is they're not going to do that voluntarily. Okay. So when everybody sits here and rages and storms about, oh, the costs of everything have skyrocketed, how come these executives won't just take a lower salary so they can cut prices and make things affordable for the working class? They're not going to do that because they don't have to. As long as you're still paying the price for the thing, they will charge as much as they can. That's the reality, and they're going to keep the highest percentage of those profits that they're allowed to. Don't like it? Great, I don't either. But if you want to change it, one of two things would have to happen. Probably both, actually. Thing one, you got to stop buying it. Like, if you don't absolutely need it, stop buying it. Like, people are still signing up for car payments that are over $1,000 a month right now, and I can't fathom it. I'm unwilling to do that. I will drive a beat up, crappy car. I ain't paying $1,000 a month to drive around. Like, nope, hard pass. But a lot of people will, which is why cars would cost what they do. If no one was willing to pay $1,000 a month for a car, I promise you they wouldn't cost $1,000 a month. Promise you, they would find a way to make them for less. But because people will still sign up for those car payments, you can bet your backside they're going to charge it. And that is true of everything. Everything. If you are willing to pay it, they will charge it. And so, one, we got to change that dynamic. Which unfortunately, I know it's hard. We got to cut back on our lifestyle before that's going to happen, which is unpleasant, which is why nobody's done it yet. But that's what's going to have to happen. That's what it will take. If we want to see prices for things like homes and cars and college education come down, the only way that's going to happen is if we stop paying what they're charging now. I know. Easier said than done, but that's the reality. That's how it works. And then the second thing that would probably have to happen is we got to stop idolizing people that are like millionaires and billionaires. Ugh. I mean, if that cultural shift happened, and instead of idolizing those people, we reviled them, people wouldn't want to be billionaires anymore. They wouldn't want to be multi-millionaires anymore. If we didn't look up to those people and instead were like trying to shift seats in a restaurant so you didn't have to sit by them, if they were pariahs and outcasts, no one would want to be one. And you know, that would have a very huge impact on a lot of things, okay? If the Jeff Bezoses of the world didn't want to keep billions of dollars for themselves and instead, I don't know, maybe spread that wealth among their employee group, be a lot more people who could afford stuff. There would be a lot more people who could afford stuff. If that was happening at scale, if it wasn't just Jeff Bezos, if it was Bill Gates, Elon Musk, all these people, just they were so reviled in society that they could barely leave their apartment, house, mansion, castle. They wouldn't want that life. No one would. Humans are social creatures, and we want to be accepted, and we want to be loved, and we want to be appreciated by the people around us. If everybody treated them like they had a scarlet letter on their forehead, I bet you anything they wouldn't maintain that lifestyle for very long. So, you know, we got to take some ownership in that stuff too and say, like, this system only exists because we allow it to. If we really wanted it to change, it would change. It would. So the things I'm teaching you, yeah, they'll help you individually, but I hope they can also help society, because we do need to change the way we think about these things. The way we're living right now, it's not sustainable. It just isn't. There's no way people can continue to sign up for mortgages on houses that are $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. That's just not affordable. When you look at what the median salary is in the United States, almost nobody can afford that. Almost nobody. But there's a heck of a lot of houses in our neighborhood going for that, and they're selling. Someone's signing up for it. So, you know, I didn't really come here to preach, but I think it's important to notice that that's how the world works. Like, as long as you're willing to pay the price, someone's going to be willing to charge it. And if you're no longer willing to pay that price, and if no one else is either, people are going to stop charging it. I bet you anything that houses could be under $400K. If people stopped paying anything more than that, guarantee you there would be houses under $400K. Guarantee you there'd be cars under $30K right now if people wouldn't pay more than that. So you know, part of telling you guys this is to just give you some armor to help you live in a world that's spiraling kind of out of control. Because if that paradigm hasn't shifted by the time you become adults, you're going to need it. You're going to need it. And I know, like, I don't take any pleasure in passing along a world to you guys that's less enjoyable and less prosperous than the one I grew up in. It sucks. No parent wants that. And I am no different. Like, I hate that with a passion, that's what we're giving you guys. But I'm one person, right? I'm trying to do the things that I can do to hand you off a better world. But if everybody else doesn't join me on that journey, I can't fix it alone. So at any rate, I hope that this kind of helps you guys out. I hope you're able to take something meaningful out of it, think about it, and it can help give you some armor to help you survive in the world you're going to inherit. I love you very much. We'll talk to you next time.